I'm here at South by Southwest, and I just got out of the world premiere of Clown in a Cornfield, and honestly, I knew absolutely nothing going in. I'm scared as hell of clowns, and I'll always enjoy a good slasher, but most of the genre is super hit or miss nowadays. Based off of the book of the same title, here we follow a group of teenagers in a small town being chased by a killer clown and a generation that doesn't care for them. Before we get into all of my spoiler-free thoughts on Clown in a Cornfield, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more of my early movie and TV show reviews and reactions. But let's get into it. For starters, I want to talk about the cast because I knew little to no one going into this film, but I left not only absolutely loving the lead girl, but also just needing more of this world, this cast, this ensemble in general. I think overall the character work itself, like writing wise, this isn't that great just because a lot of the emotional beats don't hit. And I don't think the actors and actresses are really pulling their emotional strings like they should be. But I think why I still really like the cast is because of all of their chemistry together. Once we get past the main stuff with the final girl and all of her problems going into this small town, whatever it may be, once we get to the actual part of teenagers just being teenagers, this is super believable. And that's why I think it's okay that the writing isn't absolutely amazing on a character level, because everyone serves their purpose in the story perfectly. And like I said before, the final girl played by Katie Douglas is absolutely amazing, and never seen her in anything before, but I definitely need more of her, whether it's in this franchise or another horror film. It's also crazy that Kevin Durand is in this movie. Like, I just didn't know that. Now, we'll get into more of the thematic ideas later, but I think the story of teenagers in this modern world is really interesting. Other movies try that, but they instantly just go to things like TikTok or Instagram or trying to make it cringe in a humorous way. But this film is just teenagers being teenagers, and they really take the cell service aspect out of it as well. And that's what makes it that much more funnier. But now to talk about what everyone wants to know about, how is this film as a slasher? This is absolutely entertaining. Like, this movie is so fun. I saw it in a packed theater that had great audience reactions from time to time, but just overall, I was enjoying myself. I was on the edge of my seat. Not necessarily in a mystery, like waiting for the twist to happen, but once you get past those like first 2-3 kills, which I don't really give anything away about those because those are just fun to experience in the film. But once you get past those, you're like, holy shit, the bar is so high. How are they going to keep on topping this? And they do. It uses that campy old small town idea perfectly. The killer clowns are also really cool. I do wish the clowns themselves were a little bit more scary. It's not some like cool Pennywise It type of thing. I'm only mentioning that because that's the last big recent clown movie we've gotten. I don't really count Terrifier as a clown, but I think the idea of how the kills are executed, how the story comes together, all of that is perfect stuff. So that's why I don't necessarily, again, there are some things in this movie that I just excuse because there's other elements that take over perfectly. And the killer clown idea is just one of them because it's based off of the Freddo clown that is big in the town. In terms of sequences that stood out to me, again, without giving any spoilers away, for those of you who haven't read the book, obviously I don't want to say too much. There's a really big sequence, like the first big kill is in a house and they navigate throughout the entire home and it works really well tension-wise. But one of my favorite sequences is in a big barn scene. It's about halfway through the movie. It is absolutely phenomenal and propels you into the second half of this film. It's so fucking cool the way that they're able to play the humorous elements, but also still be a serious slasher that has real stakes. That is definitely the best thing about this film. And on the note of it being a slasher, I do want to obviously give the inherent comparison because we get a bunch of slasher movies every single year, whether they're mid-budget or low budget or quite literally just bottom of barrel streaming films. But one thing that is almost consistent with almost every single film that's at the slasher level is they all just look really, really cheap. I'd say this is on the level of like Terrifier or Thanksgiving, where it feels like there is a very competent director behind the camera. I don't think it's bad. Again, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's great. I think it's just good, gets the job done, but it's not glaringly annoying like other small budget slashers. Sadly though, in terms of camera work, even though it does feel like there's a competent director behind the camera, you can tell it's no Damien Leone or Eli Roth. You know, there's not these cool flares and tricks going on behind the camera, but I think that'll come with this franchise getting a little bit more experience. Another really interesting thing about this film, and I do think it's a weakness as well as a good thing that it does, is the world building. I think it's interesting because it is so quick in terms of just throwing information at you right when the film starts, but it also is like the whole first half of the film. So I don't know if it's super quick or if they drag it on for too long. I can't really quite put my hand on it. And the opening, in my opinion, also isn't really that great, which also made the entire idea of us exploring this small town and the dynamics of the dad, the daughter, the kids at school, the sheriff, the mayor, like all of these different elements are coming together, and it feels so slow until they're all put into action. But by the end of this film, the world is entertaining enough and they've built up enough characters, even if the first half was slow. There are sequels to the book, so I would love to see a second, third, maybe even fourth film in this franchise. Again, I'm not saying it's amazing. It's not on the level of other slashers that we've gotten recently, but it is one of the better ones for sure. And it feels like there is a good, competent idea of what they're doing. It's no Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey universe type of shit. Other story thing I will mention, it definitely is setting up a sequel, 100%. So if you're a fan of the book, I think that's exactly the direction they're going in. And I also think the twist was pretty predictable. Like I said before, I think one of the most interesting things about this film is the fact that it is able to be absolutely hilarious, but also be a serious slasher at times.
Hey, check it out, it's Friendo.
And I think the way that they balance it is by trying to do somewhat of what I wouldn't call it woke. I'd say more so relevant thematic ideas. Because not only was this way funnier than I expected, but it hinged the comedy on something I didn't expect at all. It relies on modern teenagers just being teenagers. Like it talks about generational divide. The plot surrounds teenagers that are underestimated or undermined by an older generation. And I think the thematic idea at moments, like they do give characters monologues and in speech-ish moments where I'm like, all right, guys, we get it. But at the same time, I think it leads to more pros than cons because it leads for some absolutely hilarious moments without the tension ever being undermined. But to wrap it up, I want to talk about my biggest problem, and that's just that the first half is so slow, but not in an interesting, rewarding your patience, paying it off by a twist type of way. The setup, in my opinion, takes way longer than needed, and I think the final girl's origins, they're not that entertaining to me personally. But with that being said, once we get into this character groove, all of our characters are put into some sort of story plot where they start to intertwine. The second half takes off. It is basically, in my opinion, could be categorized as one big chase sequence around a cornfield, town, barn, houses, hospitals. It all works so well. It is just elite slasher filmmaking, in my opinion. And not only is it the set, but the characters, the chemistry, everything just aids the fact that this movie is able to go full tilt in the final half. At the end of the day, Clown in a Cornfield is different from the other modern slashers that we've gotten. It's not perfect, but it is very entertaining, and I do hope to see more films in this franchise very soon. Overall, I'm going to give Clown in a Cornfield a 7.5 out of 10. If you still want to check out this movie, let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.